Hello, John.
Hello, Oliver.
No atheists in foxholes. Can you explain, elaborate, please?
I will. Now, foxholes. I wonder does any modern people know what there's no atheists in foxholes? Now, it doesn't mean that there's foxes in these holes and they're in a kind of a hole where there's foxes. It's a phrase used about when there's a war on and people are in trenches, and they were called foxholes. If you're in a trench and you're liable to meet your maker before you can blow your nose, with bullets flying right and centre, and perhaps some kind of, I won't say hand grenade, whatever it is, and you could be blown to smithereens, as many a one was. That famous film with Father, he's going on for sainthood, Doyle, Father Doyle, S.J., he was a Jesuit, in the First World War. And he wasn't the bravest, but he was brave there, and he used to go out to sort of give the last rites to soldiers that was being killed like that, and from these foxholes, and go out. And he was one time when he was with an officer when they were trying to help a lad to bring him back, they were killed by the Germans in the First World War. Father Willie Doyle, he was from Dalkey, and he's gone on now for sainthood. His cause has been developed, and because there's been films about him on EWTN, and very good, and showing like what he did, and he did great work. And there was a film in EWTN about him, recorded like the way it was, and he did great work. So this is the business of no atheists in foxholes, and no atheists on an aeroplane that might be encountering trouble.
So you were saying they all
they all
pray to Lord
Jesus they don't
trouble.
Yeah, they don't, and because they're not nourishing their soul, so that they're open then to the influence of the evil one, which will fill the gap, more powerful. And even when you're trying to do things right and practice the spiritual life in your Catholic faith or Christian faith, if you happen to be a Protestant, and believe in what you're doing, but you can still he can still try to attack you and find your weakest spot.
Yeah.
So you have to be. There's a prayer. There's a lovely prayer about that, and I just mention it now as I'm talking about the foxhole business, because there's too many yokes in foxholes, and it doesn't do them a blooming bit of good. Here we are, and this is Saint Michael the Archangel. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle, be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And you, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell Satan and all evil spirits who wander through the world for the ruin of souls, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. Now, that was a prayer that was used, and a lot of prayers that you don't hear mentioned now in churches, which you should, because that's the most powerful one, and 90% or thereabouts that's not practicing their Catholic faith are leaving themselves open to that influence, whether they know it or not. And not alone are they leaving themselves open to it, but their families as well. And it doesn't augur for peace and happiness in the home. The best way to have peace and happiness in the home is to teach your children, if you have children, their morning and evening prayers and the catechism, and to try and say the rosary every night. If you're a Catholic, if you're some other Christian religion, you have other ways of doing it. The Muslims have whatever prayers they do, and they do a lot of them, and they're always prostrate on the ground. So they're trying to do something, obviously, to save their immortal souls in their particular religion. But as Catholics, that's the thing to do. And there's more now lapsed Catholics in Ireland, and not alone in Ireland, but in Britain and in the United States and Canada. There's less people that, even though were baptised, is not practicing their faith and nourishing their soul the way they nourish their body, and they should nourish their soul, because this is it. And they're just as bad as the atheists. because if you don't nourish the soul and say a few prayers, where are you going to go? Where do you think you're going to go? Do you think when you finish your life on this earth, you've after denying God and what you were nourished with, and you think He's going to say, you did good here or you do good there, and then He might point out you did this, that, and the other, and so on and so forth. Well, off you go somewhere else. There's only three places you go to: heaven, purgatory, or hell. That's the choice. Mother Angelica in EWN mentions that, and I totally agree with her. There's three places. It doesn't matter that some unfortunate individuals now will tell you, "Oh, there's no hell." There must be kind of the lights are out. They don't know what they're talking about.
I want to make sure we're going to the right place anyway.
But make sure that when you're going, as soon as you leave this earth, he says to you, you're going to be judged straight away.
Right.
And you'd like to hear, come upstairs with you. You're going up where all as happy as Larry up there.
And the thing about it is, the secular Google Maps won't get you there either.
Oh no! You can take a jump. As I say, there's no atheists in foxholes, and that's where if they were in foxholes, they might say a prayer. God help us. I believe if a plane is in trouble, that's the first thing to say. God help us.
That's it. Yeah.
And be goodness, as a matter of fact, some of these atheists had near-death experiences when they were in the operator on and saw, be goodness, the dark place they were going to, and they were able to come back.
Yeah,
but they saw what they saw.
The near-death
so
they're the lucky ones, John, because they got a warning.
They did, and they would be going for operations, and the people, and they could even see what was going on, so they were outside the body. There's a lot of, you'll get that kind of information if you check it on the internet, for example, whatever way you do it in Google, but you'll get it then in other ways as well. And they say that there's that there's a fierce need for what they call exorcists, or so these ones that deal with people that are possessed. Because when you read the Bible, there seems to be an awful lot of people possessed, and you wouldn't think them times they would have been possessed, but they were according to the Bible. And so if they were possessed then, and there was no transport and no this, that, and the other. Now there's so many ways of going astray that. There must be an awful lot, the fellow says up the creek, but they were a paddle. So you've got to sort of nourish the soul and stop going down any road that'll sort of have you in Queer Street. You know what I mean? And when I mean by that you're in the wrong place.
I think someone said recently, or was it yourself, that 90% of people believe in nothing. But sure, I would say that 90% of people know nothing and they're looking for hope.
I agree with you there, because there's goodness in most people, but it has to be nourished. It can, if they don't, they'll be coming under the influence of the evil one, which is quite powerful, and and the world, the flesh, and the devil, to say. So we used to hear this, but we used to have prayers, when I was young and even up to my 30s, because no matter what I was doing, I was trying to go to mass all the time, and without a doubt, you'd hear the words that would resonate with you, and you try to go straight. So there was always something to sort of guide you and put you on the right path. And then people that's gone before that knew you and knew the goodness maybe that was in you would be praying for you, and their prayers then can be answered. Because suddenly, out of the blue, you're doing things that you hadn't done before when you have time to do it, especially when you retire. And this is, before I retired, I started doing a lot of things that I hadn't done, especially when I was working for myself. I wasn't under the influence of anybody, only myself. And then I had time to sort of develop all this. Which I did, and it stood to me. And then, fortunately, we started doing videos 7 or 8 years ago in 2015, and out of the blue. And then that went in a couple of years ago to the Christian TV Ireland project. We had Christian and Jobs Action Party, but we're doing the same stuff that we're doing now, funny enough. Standing up for the Irish people that was persecuted for hundreds of years and all that. Standing up for all the beauty in the country.
But going back to the people anyway that are a bit lost, there's a lot of people these days and they're going to psychologists. They don't go to the priest anymore. They go to the
Well,
psychologist.
you see, he won't do anything for them. As a matter of fact, that'll put you astray, because what's the use of just thinking about this world? You've got to nourish the soul, and you won't. Psychologist won't be at that racket. He'll be pointing to do your own thing and believe in yourself and all the rest of it. That's not the way to do it. You've got to depend on somebody outside yourself, somebody good.
Yeah.
Isn't that right? Because there's good in everybody, but it has to be nourished. And this is what I'm saying. Nourish it, for goodness sake, and do yourself good. And before you know where you are, you're as happy as Larry, and there's joy and peace in your life. And you start whistling. You won't be doing that if you're up the creek, if you're not doing good. You won't be whistling, will you?
You won't indeed.
No,
And,
well, this is it. You'll be whistling if you're doing things right.
Yeah. So what I want to ask you is, were you always religious, or was it something that came late in life?
No, well, I was a bit that way inclined, but naturally I went this way, that way, the other way. But I had that fundamental thing in my system, and I'd always stand up for good rather than nothing else, and that kind of thing. And especially when I was doing the insurance and calls about 400 houses a week, because in this country you often have to change career whether you like it or not.
Absolutely,
and
yes,
I
yeah.
was up and down and all the rest of it in various jobs I was in and doing very well. But this country, with streets one thing or another, they were closing down, and you were on the pig's back one minute and you were on the floor the next. So I learned how to sort of survive with nothing half the time, and this type of thing. So with all these things happen, but the people that's gone before, that was prayed for you, they're the ones that bring you back, along with yourself being open to it. And that's the way it happened, I think, with me. Especially when I was working myself, then I began to, that developed more than when I was working for other people. And especially when I was doing the insurance, I was called to houses with people that would have been tough enough. If I wasn't doing it, I might be saying, because I'd had to be dangerous country, but they were actually good. Once you sort of treated them the way with respect. And that's the thing that's missing in a lot of cases. People need to be treated with respect. And funny enough, that's what the Christian TV all will be doing. We'll be listening to people that's perhaps sleeping rough, people that seem to have lost it. They haven't not. Bring them in and say, what happened to you? Let them tell their story. We don't hear these stories, do we?
We don't.
Well, I don't hear them. And my ears is cocked to hear them, and I don't hear them. But you will hear them with the Christian TV, full stop. And the people that's gone astray and all the rest of it. And as to why. Because I was even talking to a man that's in the church and does readings and sometimes gives out to youth. But he visited me there, rather, when I was opening the gate in where I live. And he was passing, and he come in and had a chat. And I think I gave him one of my leaflets. He didn't know I was at this Good News for Irish People, this Christian TV. And then he was telling me, like, that it seemed to be bothering him, the abuse that happened in the Catholic Church and so on and so forth. Well, I said, that's one thing you shouldn't be doing. You pray for those that went astray like that. If you do what you're doing, and I'm surprised that you're at that. They have to answer for what they did. There's no point in you, say, the ones that not practice, say, well, priests were abusing this or bishop were covering up. I said, that's not going to do you a blind bit of good if that's the excuse that you're using for not going to mass or going to nothing or not practicing anything. Because when you meet your maker, you'll be asked, what did you do? Oh, well, I didn't go because of this, that or the other. They have to answer for their problems. It's common sense, isn't it? But it's extraordinary what people use to actually practice their Catholic faith and have this handicap. So I assured him to just get rid of that, because he's making a stumbling block. This is the evil one, putting the doubts, because people are of all sorts of people. So I was surprised to hear this, but I did sort of say that to him. Don't, for goodness sake, waste your time about that. They have to answer for themselves. And he was going on to say, forget about it, for goodness sake. Just do it, They have to answer, and don't spend your time. The secular media are dining off that all the time. But we're not in that, so forget about it. They're doing things quite evil, so they're trying to justify it and then attacking the Catholic Church. I said, that's a waste of time. Forget about that, and people have not practiced their Catholic faith, and they're saying that kind of thing because they come across it. But you waste their time talking to them because their mind is closed, and they're under the influence of the evil one. Because when that happens, you're not going to listen to the truth. So I'm just saying that, anyways. So that's where there's no atheists and foxholes.
Thank you very much, John.
Thank you very much, Oliver.